Welcome, listeners, to another enlightening episode of Compassion in Cannabis. I am your host, Tara Purcell, and I am delighted to embark on this transformative exploration alongside all of you. Today, we have a remarkable guest whose story embodies the power of spirituality, resilience, and the healing path of plant medicine. Joining us on the show today is the extraordinary Robin Swan, a holistic health practitioner, a patient, and a devoted mother. Her presence in this world of healing has touched the lives of so many, and we are honored to have her share her profound experience with us. Throughout this episode, we will delve into the captivating tales of Robin Swan, who has Swan Apothecary, who not only carries the wisdom of holistic healing, but also navigates her own journey as a patient and a mother. A healing journey with Robin Swan is aimed to shed light on the transformative effects of plant medicine and spiritual connection it can have to foster within ourselves and our communities. Today, we have the privilege of hearing Robin's story, a tale of profound personal growth, resilience, as a healing holistic practitioner, excuse me. Robin Swan has not only shaped her as an individual, but has ignited her passion for sharing with healing powers of plant medicine with others. Throughout this episode, Robin will generously offer her insights, delving into her own healing journey and the transformative impact that plant medicine has had on her life. Her story serves as a guiding light for those seeking a deeper connection with themselves and the natural world around them. This aims to inspire, empower, providing a platform for healers, patients, mothers like Robin to share their wisdom and experiences through these narratives. We hope to foster a greater understanding and a profound healing potential found in the embrace of plant medicine and spiritual practices. So, without further ado, let's embark on this remarkable conversation with Robin Swan as we explore the power in healing, the connection of our spiritual selves, and enduring the strength of a mother's love. Welcome, Robin. How are you today?
I'm good, Tara. How are you?
I am wonderful. I really thank you for joining us on Compassion and Cannabis, and we are truly honored to have you here and to hear your remarkable story.
Well,
So,
I love supporting you, because I just have to say that I've known Tara for most of her life. I think you were like 13 or 14 when I met you. So I really just appreciate being able to share this space with you because you're also a mom, and I was there when you were becoming that, and you were making those choices, and your mom is my sister. So those things are what make this community so beautiful, is that it's generational.
it is, and that is very true. I have always looked to you as my mom's spiritual leader too, because my mom does go to you for those times of wisdom, and so it is truly an honor to share this space because I do love the cellular, the universal connection, how we are just always bonded, reconnecting, and holding that space to each other. And I thank you for leading that way because it is empowering to see you empowering and healing, and it is empowering, it is inspiring because we only hope that we can grow as those women who guide us. So you are one in my life, so thank you.
Thank you. I
Very
appreciate
much.
that. Yeah.
So I do have a question for you. So, could you please share with us and our listeners your personal journey as a holistic healer and what led you to embrace plant medicine and spirituality as a path to healing?
Well, I honestly don't think that I really had a choice. I was born into it, and I've been making plant medicine since I could stand at a stove. So that puts me about 5 years old. And even though I didn't really want to do it when I was a kid, as my life has unfolded, I've seen, the purposefulness of it, and all of, my family members who I would be like, oh, I just want to go play with my friends, like my grandmothers who made me actually sit there at the stove and learn how to, do things, extract. And then even like one of my first boyfriends, he was Colombian, and his aunties taught me how to extract cannabis. I'm like 15 years old with rubbing alcohol, which is really the basic what RSO is. So, at 13 years old, they were showing me how to make a really common topical tincture that is, through all South America for always and since always, which is basically just your extraction using alcohol. That's all it is. And then they just used it topically and they didn't cook it down to a goo. And that is the difference between how it has been and where we are now. And that's kind of like our whole life, right? It like pushes together to make it stronger. Like the tea gets stronger the more it sits in the water. So that was my experience with that. And then, my dad used to pay me a quarter a foot and 50 cents for a back rub. So professionally, I've been a structural integration neuromuscular therapist, which is a combination of like chiropractics and secondary muscle massage. And I literally can say, well, I've been getting paid since I was 5. So again, and then the most astounding thing for me was when my mother transitioned. I found a book that was written about my matriarchal family. My mom is Persian and Yemen, and my father is indigenous American. He's Eastern Band Cherokee and Creole. Okay. So I opened this book and I never felt worthy, because a lot of my education had been, orally passed down and I've been forced to do it as a child. So I was always woo woo juju, it was like the 80s. Here I am, like I'm doing like plant medicine and, like some and crystal shit that like some, I learned like how to do layouts before people even knew what layouts were and how to create copper grids. And all of this stuff was just given to me from the creator as I was growing up, but I didn't feel like it really had any tooth. So I got a tremendous amount of education. I like to say that I can wallpaper my bathroom in degrees. And I used to display them all. And then when my mother passed, I read this passage in a book that was written about my family, about her family. And it talked about how, like, for always and since always, the women in her lineage had been midwives, herbalists, seers. And I was like, I just wasted thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars trying to learn what is innately in my DNA.
Yeah.
So I feel really fortunate. I keep all those degrees in a suitcase under a bed now because I literally like got them for myself. And now I realize, because I'm old, that I don't need to validate myself that way. And I'm grateful that I have that education, because do not ever discount how important it is to sit in a classroom with others, because as you said, Tara, in the beginning, you don't know what you don't know. And when you step into an educational circle that is expansive, and you get exposed to people who see the world in a much different way than you do. So school is really about community and meeting people and learning different ideas, much more than the degree that you walk out with.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it's really crucial that everybody, gets as much education in whatever arena they can and travels, because it's the best. So that's how I came by all my stuff. And then I worked with because of my bodywork background, I was working with professional athletes, and I was in the NFL for a very long time. And through that, I had how many 9 family members die in a 2-year period from cancer between 2005 and 2007. I lost everybody pretty much in my family. My parents died within 6 months of each other. And I was just like, how can I, like, why do I not know enough? And then I was just flipping through YouTube, and one of my friends had sent me, hey, you ever heard of this guy named Rick Simpson? And this was at the very beginning, when Run for the Cure was put on YouTube in 12 different segments, because they could only be 2 minutes long, right?
Right.
So there had only been like 50 or 100 people who had seen it at this point. So I was able to reach out to the guy that made the film, Christian Laureate, and he then connected me to Rick Simpson. So I had that really very special opportunity so long ago, way over there that way, long ago, to sit with Rick before anyone really knew who he was. And at the time, I was married to another indigenous generational herbalist. So we were like, we got this. And, we did a lot of fighting with Rick because the products that they have in Canada are much different than what we have in the United States. And, he was originally extracting with naphtha, which is paint thinner. And if
Mhm.
you get paint thinner in the United States, you will die. No matter, you cannot burn it off. It's not going to happen. So we, found naphtha and we did an extraction that way. And in that time frame, I had a client named Frank Kern who had a friend who had breast cancer. And he was like, hey, I hear you're talking about all this, like, he called it canna-goo, whatnot, kind of woo-woo juju medicine. And he put a big ass wad of cash in my hand, like more money than I'd ever seen in my life in my hand. He gave me like 10 grand and said, go buy everything that you need to make this happen. And I was like, okay. So, we went and bought, like, at that time, please understand why it was so much money, because at that time, cannabis was $4,000 a pound.
Right.
So it was not, 800 and something dollars. So, and we were able to get, I think we got 3 pounds, and we did some with naphtha under Rick's, kind of guidance. And then we were like, oh, no, that's disgusting. But I have to say, and then we went over to organic alcohol. We went back to our roots, which were, we did a lot of research, came up with the Ming Dynasty's recipe and the Ayurvedic recipe, which is basically how RSO, when you make it in your backyard, is made. And let's not call it RSO, because Rick really fucking hates when people use his name when he doesn't get $1 on it. So it's fully extracted cannabis oil is what it is. And, and it literally dates back to the Ming Dynasty. And that's where Rick Simpson found it, was in the Ming Dynasty. So we made all this medicine, and I have to say that the naphtha pool was the strongest pool. It was probably 98%. And because of my friends and colleagues, we were able to get our medicine tested before there was cannabis testing, because we had friends that were lab technicians and they were able to just, sneak it into the lab and get it tested. So I'm really grateful for that. So this stuff was insane. And this one woman who had the breast cancer used like 4 drops of it and healed herself. And that is not normal. That is not, I don't want people hearing that going, oh, that could happen for me. But it was just a unique situation with her. But we ended up having a tremendous amount of oil from that learning experience that had all tested above 68% or more, because we tried all these different extractions and found our pathway that we wanted to do. And I put it on Facebook. Hey, anybody want to try some cannabis oil? See if it's going to help you, And I met this woman. I had met this woman named Corey Yellen right around this time. And Corey Yellen has a big voice in the cannabis world. And she has a podcast. But at that time, she had just healed herself from cancer. Okay. And she made a commitment to herself that if it worked, she would spend the rest of her life educating people. And that's what she's been doing, is educating people. So through her like network and friends and whatever, and me and my big mouth and not having no regard for the law, I was able to just like put it out there, and we got all these clients in Europe, and we had phenomenal successes. And then, we started to, it was very like, I remember one of the greatest things for me in my longevity of my career, especially this component of it, is back in the early 2000s, like, 10, 13, doctors would reach out to me and they'd say, I'm putting my license on the line, even calling you. And now doctors just refer me directly to their patients. And I think that is a miracle and a beautiful thing. But I did try to buy some syringes on this freaking website today for healthcare logistics. And they sent me a letter saying, oh no, you can't purchase from us, you dirty cannabis user, medicine maker.
What?
Yeah, no shit, right? So my response was, you don't know what I'm doing, and you need to fuck off. And my lawyer will contact you next, because you are not going to discriminate against what I'm doing that's federally recognized, because you decide that it's marijuana and it's federal. So, that's the thing about this industry. And this is the place where people get confused when they come in, right? Because like, this is a long path, and a lot of people paid with their blood and their fucking life for us to be here today. And when you step on at like 2023 and you have no clue about all of that behind you, it's still with you. So if you don't know how to navigate it, you're not going to survive.
Yes.
You're survive. Yes. And if you're going to spend in California hundreds of thousands of dollars to get licensed to be able to put a gummy in the market, you're going to fail.
Yeah.
You just are. because that is the recreational and medicine are two totally different animals, and recreation is already corporate.
Yeah, that's what connects us today, because the industry as we know it, the freedom we have to even walk into a dispensary has been really put upon us, and we have it because of patients. It was the patient's
100%.
lives that really save it, and a patient can't even walk into the dispensary and get technically what they need.
What they need,
You
no,
know?
they can't, because 215 was awesome because it protected the patient, and it allowed us to create communities. But when 64 passed, and we're talking about California specifically,
Yes,
so when Prop 64 passed and it became recreational, it diminished the right of the patient exponentially, because it
absolutely.
also limited the values of the cannabinoid profile.
Yes.
So it watered it down. But that is, I feel like Mary Jane grabbed me by the throat in 2013 and was like, you have no joy. Been that way. And in 2015 I started adding psilocybins because I grew up in the Native American church, so I was very familiar with that kind of medicine, and wanted to provide something for people that they could enjoy as well as do some healing. And I lost my sister 2 years ago to a random brain aneurysm, and she was my last living family member, and I honestly did not think I was going to be able to survive that loss. It was the most devastating experience of my entire life, and it compounded with the man that I had been living with for, a decade, me finding out the level of betrayal that was actually current in the relationship. So it was a double death for me. And I still had to wake up and go to work and and feed my whatever family, do my life. And this is where I really found the magic of psilocybin and psilocin, the power of psilocin, because
Yeah.
microdosing through that period, it would at least give me a 6 to 8 hour window where my grief was not so overwhelming that if somebody offered me a glass of water, I wouldn't be like, why do you think I need it? It allowed me to get some separation from my grief. And, then I did a deep dive into what is psilocin actually doing for you and how it creates neurodiversity and really allows your brain to dump. And you could go to talk therapy for decades and not move any of your feelings. And
Yeah.
you could do body work like Heller work, and you could move a little bit of that, or you can do a really intense psilocybin journey and clear it in a weekend
Yes.
and find a deeper understanding and compassion for yourself. And that's where I think a lot of us are lacking, is in compassion
Yeah.
for ourselves. So when we say compassionate use, when we're participating in, the use of plant medicine, we're actually coming into alignment with what we're supposed to be doing, because we're literally plants, and plants give life, And if you wait until your root system is dead, no amount of cannabis oil or mushrooms are going to take care of you. My big message for people is, if you find out that you're off balance, which we call illness, that you immediately then start coming into alignment with plant medicine, letting your body get rebuilt, because you're just depleted. And that will give you, no matter what you choose to do with the pathway that you go on, those plants are going to fortify you in a way that chemicals can't, like chemo.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Because that is a true killer. If we want to talk about what really kills, and it can happen quick and before our eyes. And I think you really tapped into an important moment where it's like recognizing the healing that we do have to take when we do lose a loved one. And that's why, again, I will honor the show to those patients who have passed and to those who are living and with us still that are healing, because that it doesn't end there for that patient. Yes, the patient is at peace and blessed be they found their comfort with the plant and all of our Gaia medicine, that does ground us and heal us, and acknowledging that we have to take preventative measures, acknowledge that, my mind does need to be rebalanced, because the pain that we do go through in that healing process is important to acknowledge, and not just to feel like you have to mask it and be okay because the world around us tells you have to be okay. There's no timeline on how long it is to be okay.
Right.
It's really acknowledging
Right.
that now is that time until
Right.
I don't even know if you know when you're done healing, if we ever
Yeah.
are done
Well,
healing.
yeah, exactly. I don't think you're ever really done, like healing, but I think that we can come. As far, as the grief goes, somebody said to me, you can't, like, when you lose somebody or people like that, it's helpful to bring them into you, to make them a part of you. And by making them a part of you, taking the characteristics that you admired about them and putting them into your life, and
Yeah.
it was incredibly helpful for me.
Can you provide any insights or guidance on how individuals can cultivate a deeper connection to their spiritual selves and incorporate plant medicine into their healing process?
Well, I could try. Let me see. Most people are asleep at the wheel in their meat suits, and then they come upon some weed and they're like, they think it's just a way to, dumb it down basically, because on the dark side of cannabis, you can just be numb. And that's really not Mary Jane's medicine. That's not really what she's here for. She's not really here to numb us out. And this is when recreational use kind of, comes into play. But even without any kind of something, plant medicine or whatever, just grounding is, and people don't, what does that mean? Take your shoes off, go walk on the earth, go out into nature, lay on the ground. And I like, lay belly down and start with the words, I give away, and start giving away all that is on you that is not yours. So many of us don't even know who we are. Like, we're so far from our authentic self. We're trying so desperately to be what we're supposed to be. Like me getting all those college degrees, taking all those classes. I was desperately trying to show the world I'm valuable. I have merit. I know things. Look I have paper, and the truth was I already knew all those things. They were lineagely stuck in me, but I didn't have those people to really bring me up. And that's, a lot of us don't have our circle to do that. So we have to create our own spiritual family. We have to, cultivate and create relationships that hold us accountable to ourselves in a positive way, not in a scolding way. And we need to just begin to, like, I would really encourage people to start asking themselves, what makes me happy? What do I really want? And to understand that they can have that. They can have it, because so many people think they can't, because they think that their life is about others,
Yeah.
and it's not. Your life is not about anybody else but yourself. And anybody who's in your life with you is going to support that, because their life is also about themselves. And, cannabis is a wonderful tool to use. You don't have to use it orally. If you're like, some people have allergies to THC, and it can make them very uncomfortable and paranoid. And that's, so use it topically, use it on the bottom of your feet, the back of your neck, put it in your belly button. It's going to still take you to that deeper level of relaxation. And that is how I think people find their spirit, is through relaxation, because we can't hear ourselves if we're covered in noise. If we don't ever get space from all that noise, and that noise being our friends, our family, our job, our thoughts, our beliefs, all these things, our expectations, start really addressing, is that really how you want to spend your time? COVID gave us an opportunity to spend some time alone. And some people really emerged a completely different person. And some people just became, more scared and fearful. And read the Tao of Pooh, because everybody is one of the Winnie the Pooh characters, right? So
Oh my
are you
goodness.
Piglet? Are you fearful and fretful and everything? Are
Oh
you
my goodness.
like Rabbit? Or are you just like, look, Pooh gets it all, because Pooh just kind of goes with the flow. And I'm entering into my 60th year. Like, next year I'll be 60, which is mind-boggling for me. But I have to say that it is taking me this long, and this is why I think that we live for 100 years, to be able to understand that my opinion of myself is the highest.
Oh,
And
yes.
my peace is the most valuable in the space. And
Yes.
I was in my 20s with a bunch of kids, and 30s, bunch of kids, 40s, bunch of kids. You don't have any peace in those years. You really don't. So it's impossible and not realistic to say to a 24-year-old mother of 3, or a 36-year-old mother of two. Hey, take some time for yourself. It's gonna be great, and you have to figure it out. Like, I don't care if you stay up late or get up early to find that time for yourself. We all have to have it. So I highly encourage you to, clean up your life, give up something to find that, trade at a social event.
Yeah, and a quote that's always stuck with me is spirituality inspires me, religion frightens me. So understanding that we can still have that space without it being within these structured ways of what we were taught it's supposed to look like when it comes to feeding the soul.
Right. Well, and religion is 100% because of the patriarch.
Yes.
I mean, it exists because the word ceremony means to celebrate. And ritual is like redoing the same thing over and over again. And when we become patterned, we lose the magic, which is why mushrooms are so awesome, because they create alternative pathways in your very rutted brain. Like everything is a pattern. All of just think about your day. How much of what you do during your day is the same way every single day? And that's not bad. That's how we get shit done. We wake up at a certain time, we go to work from this time to that time, we eat these meals at these times. There's a reason why we have these patterns and these structures. And it's also important for us to completely dump them and repattern.
Right. That way we continue to keep building our pathways, our cellular memories, and keep restoring. And I like how you bring into that too, because when we are tapped in and we get to this place and we build our community, we feel it within our soul, that cellular memory of doing what we're supposed to be doing. And it takes a long time and it's not an easy journey to get there. We might have some technical difficulties. Are you there still, Robin?
Can you see me yet?
Are you there? I hear you. Yes.
Hear him now. Okay.
I
lost you. You became like blah, 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 blah.
Well, good job retapping in. I was just connecting to the cellular memory. You've brought it up throughout the beginning to now, it's that healing pattern. And I even can do it within myself. Facebook is an amazing tool when it comes to a diary. We used to write down in diaries. Now it reminds us where we were 9 years ago. And I can be like, wake up and feeling funky and like not understanding why I feel a certain way. And then all of a sudden Facebook shows me my words from 9 years ago. And it's really interesting how I'm in tune with a feeling that I don't even realize I'm still carrying with me from something that happened to me 10 years ago, 11 years ago. Right. And so it's really acknowledging that feeling. Like I acknowledge this feeling within myself. I see it. And I also understand why I'm feeling this way. And because when I can see it and acknowledge it, it's like, it gives me that consciousness. Okay, I can let this go because that's why I feel this way. It's not my day. It's not the people around me. It's not anything. It's cellular memory. And I have to make a very conscious effort in that time, that moment, to do it different, smile. I've gotten to the point, like even in my yoga practices, I try to smile, even in that moment when I'm so uncomfortable, put a smile on instead. And it's easier for us. But, just practicing, like getting past that cellular memory of emotion that just got me, and sometimes it's not really easy to see, but sometimes really acknowledging, just stopping and being within that space to acknowledge that feeling, and don't be scared to, if you need to cry, like we do hold back because we're masking for the world. Like, are we allowed to mask? It don't fit into my schedule right now. Excuse me, I'm busy, put it off. I think there's that smile now, cry later factor. We see it on the clown faces, and it's just not always a really good balance, but it's interesting to balance it back out and how we grow. And that's what guides us as women. And as you say, at 60, there comes a point where you can finally stop and see it. And hopefully we can stop and see it multiple times as we evolve as women and continue to grow, because it's not an easy process.
No, it's not. And it takes a while. But you said two things that are really important. And one is that, like, when you fake it till you make it, you smile. So here's the real truth about your neurological system and your brain. It doesn't know the difference difference between reality and fantasy, and it's designed to hate you.
Yeah.
Okay. It is designed to make you miserable. So gratitude is literally the only thing that will shift us out of anything that is not in our highest self. And sometimes you're like, well, I don't feel grateful. Well, are you breathing? You know, if you say something is, I'm so grateful for the fact that I'm breathing, you know? And if you just start this, like, because it's really important to shift, because we make a choice in every minute, every day. How much is this going to fuck me up? And I'm not saying that, like, you know, people aren't living with very, very serious things, but I like to tell my clients who are living with those super serious things that those emotions, set a timer on them. You know, you want to like really go down the rabbit hole about how your diagnosis is leading you to a very quick and much sooner demise of your life. Give yourself 20 minutes a day to really mourn that and feel the darkness of that, of those feelings, but not more than 20 minutes, because you don't know how long you're going to live. You really don't, you know? I mean, none of us really do. And the only thing that you get when you get a diagnosis like that is an opportunity to make every minute of your life super count.
Yeah, blessed be to that, because it does. And I even love how it's like connection when you're doing what you're supposed to do. Things just like completely keep popping up. And even the other day, I was like thinking of Eeyore. I was totally like, Eeyore, I know there's this book. I know there's this book. And it talks about poo and Eeyore. And I was trying to put it together. So today it just sparked. And it's the Tao of Poo. And I am so going to be tapping back into that book. Highly recommended. I've read it multiple times. And I definitely am at a point where I'm like, oh, let's revisit that book. So thanks for bringing that up, because that was exactly in the universe. I've been like, it's been on the tip of my tongue. So thank you. So I also have another question. A lot of the time today, when patients are interested, they're already taking medicines. You know, modern medicine has been a part of everybody's healing journey. Healing, I'm going to quote that one, you know, because is that what we're doing to heal ourselves through this modern medicine? But in traditional healing practices and in your own healing journey and the work you do with others, how can we navigate between modern medicine and holistic practices and holistic medicines?
Well, I mean, there's definitely room in the world for both. All right. So I like to call pharmaceuticals chemicals and salts, because that's what pharmaceutical medicine is. It's plants that have been turned to chemicals and salts.
Yes.
And sometimes we really need those chemicals and salts to keep our blood pressure down and, you know, to keep us from having a stroke. So I'm not anti-allopathic medicine, but I do believe that there is a great balance. And even more dangerous in the conversation is the conversation of fucking vitamins, man. Let's talk about the supplement vitamin bullshit that people go through. So I'm very passionate about this, obvious. All right. So when I have a client call me and they are like, you know, in mid to late stage cancer, and I ask them what they're taking and they tell me they're taking like 27 supplements, I am like, please stop. Please stop right now, because everything that we put into our body has to work to make it happen. So whether it's powder or pill, it doesn't matter. It's still coming into our body. So, you know, eat as healthy as you can. That's the number one thing. And if you cannot eat because you are so uncomfortable in your body, please do not juice. Please soup, because you are 98 degrees and juice is 77 degrees and has no fiber. All right. So your body, and you also don't chew. So you're not chewing, you're not creating saliva, your body's not working, your body is not getting the message, oh, hey, nutrition's coming, because you're swallowing. Okay. And then it gets into your stomach and it's like, oh, this is cold. And then it has to work really super hard to get it from the 77 degree juice or cooler to 98 degrees of your internal engine to begin to extract its minimal amount of, you know, nutrients.
Wow.
All right. So so the best way to combat that and still keep it light is to soup, you know, make bone broth. If you can't make it, use bone broth as your base. Cut your vegetables up really super tiny, you know, cook them and then chew them. And this is going to give you the same nutrients as your BS juice. And I'm going to say this, and I will say it always, my clients that die the fastest and the quickest with the most painful death are the ones who fast indefinitely and juice.
Oh, wow.
They are the ones they are out. They are out like lights. Like,
wow.
I've had less than 5% of my clients do that, go to Mexico and live. but I've had, let's say, 40 to 60% of my clients who have lived their life, taken care of themselves, stayed present, used plant-based medicine and Western medicine, be able to overcome and survive and sustain themselves. You know, maybe sometimes they've only added a year or two to their life, but it was a high quality year. So if you don't feed your body can't work. And if you fill it with shit that it's got to like do, like vitamins, then you're making it work for something it doesn't really need. So, you know, definitely if you are ill, you know, magnesium, people are always short on magnesium, potassium, and calcium. Like those are, and
Wow.
vitamin, you know, so vitamin D is one of those guys, right? So these are what we all need. We need minerals and salts because our food is so leached of them. You know, we don't need like 14 different supplements, and we need vegetables and fruit. And, you know, if you cannot really eat that much as you're supposed to, which is 5 servings, then the only supplement that I really encourage people to take is that, like, there's a company called Juice Plus, and this is not a commercial for them. They're just the only one I really know. And they're capsulized vegetables and fruits. And that's all they are. There's nothing else but vegetables and fruits. So if you know, do a couple of those pills a day, you're going to get your 5 servings of both of those. And if digesting the pill is hard for you, you could get it in powder form. And I absolutely encourage powder over pill, always.
Okay. Would you like to explain more why you might recommend powder
Because
over
powder
pill?
is immediately bioavailable in your stomach because it's liquid, and a pill, you have to, your stomach acid has to break it down. So
Oh,
it becomes a little bit more challenging for the system to have to break through that encasing that the pill is made from.
wow, that's incredible. And even the hot, like what you say makes like so much sense in the terms of juicing and even the hot and the cold. Even water, you know, I've always known that about water, that my body responds better to temperature water than cold water. My body's got to work so hard to like catch up and that I'm not really hydrating myself
Right.
effectively or as efficient as I could be. Now, there's a lot of patients in states where it's illegal. It's where THC isn't welcome. And so we are using CBD. How would one in one of these states maybe be able to navigate? And how is it with their modern medicine or any
Well, you know,
advice?
CBD has a lot of contraindications that people don't really talk about. So you really need to do your research because it is a vasodilator. So if you're doing things like Coumadin, or there's a couple anti-seizure medicines that work very badly with CBD, you know, just because it's CBD does not mean it's awesome. But on another note, you know, like always do your due diligence. And I am not a doctor. And, you know, Google will give you both sides of every argument. You can download Google Medical, which is what I prefer because that gives you just a little bit more like directed information. But you have to talk to your doctor, and more than your doctor, because your doctor doesn't know shit, your pharmacist. Your pharmacist is the one who is going to be able to answer the questions about the pathology of the medicine you take in alignment with CBD. They're going to know way more than your doctor, because your doctor is just going to tell you, well, that don't mean nothing. It's not going to do nothing for you. But your pharmacist is going to be able to say to you, well, don't mix it with this. And then as a rule, there should always be 2 hours in between anything you do because your receptors can't receive a bunch. You know, so if you have to take a pharmaceutical medicine, wait 2 hours before you use CBD. And if you can't have THC in your state, don't worry about it. You know, CBD, CBN, and CBG are so much more powerful than THC, and they will bring you to a whole nother level a lot faster than THC. And they have much more medicinal qualities for our central nervous system than THC. THC does 2 things. It fights cancer and it minimally reduces pain. All right. So that's why there's only two THC molecules and many CBD, because that's the workhorse. So all of the CBD family, CBD, CBG, CBN, they're all legal everywhere. And I have been changing my formulations of medicine to incorporate more of them and less of THC, especially for people who are not fighting cancer, because that's its real gift. That's THC's real gift. And, those of us who like to smoke, it's got other gifts as well, or to use it recreationally, it's great like that. But its medicinal quality is purely to fight cancer. And it actually won't really touch pain the way that CBD, G, or N will, because that's not
Wow.
its job. And a lot of times people will end up really high and still in pain. And that sucks.
Yeah, that, it's really interesting because a lot of people don't understand the differences and how it is being used. And that's where it's really important. And I think we'll go ahead and tap into it, because I think Dennis Perone, he was one of the founders for Compassionate Care for 215. He made a statement and quote, and we'll say, all use is medical use. Now, tapping into that taps into our endocannabinoid system. Would you mind, Robin, kind of giving a little description of how one might understand that? Because a lot of what I also would like to stand for is like strain specific, not all of us have the same elements. Not all of us need that same strain to be able to benefit our body. And what I know about myself is no matter where I go, my elements are the same. No matter what state I'm in, my elements are the same. And no matter what, I have to be able to provide for thyself in this manner. And so all use is medical use because we have this within our system already.
Right. And I'm not trying to say that it's not. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah,
But
no.
yes, I don't want anyone to be confused that I'm thinking that like, oh, recreational has its purpose. All right. And the reason why it's not quote unquote medical is because it's only 10 milligrams per gram. All right. And so that's not a medical dose. So, but that's it. But yes, all use is medical use, and everybody who's using it in some way is finding some relief in some ways. So, but you asked me, so the endocannabinoid system sits on top of the central nervous system. And it was Raphael Mashiom who figured that out in 1964, the year I was born. I love that. And the way that it works is it feeds the central nervous system. So so cannabinoids are not just in cannabis. Okay, they're also in antioxidants. So it's a misnomer that only cannabis feeds the endocannabinoid system. But what is different about cannabis and everything else is that we have receptors for it in our body. We have CB1 and CB2 receptors, and they are throughout our entire body. And so when any illness or disease is formed in our body, it's because the nerve has died to the area. So the nerve pulse has stopped. That's created, the cell to die. The cell begins to split. And this is where illness and disease are formed. So what cannabis does through the endocannabinoid system is it feeds those receptors, which helps keep our central nervous system alive and functioning. CBD literally repairs the myelin sheath of the nerve. So when a nerve dies, like imagine, like your car or a light plug. If you play off the plastic, that's just live nerves, right? And those live nerves are always firing. And so they're always firing on whatever they're hitting. And then finally they're going to electrocute it to death. So, and then that becomes death in the cell, and that's what splits, and that's where illness comes. Okay. So the endocannabinoid system feeding through the central nervous system repairs that myelin sheath, which stops that nerve from fraying, which returns pulse back to that area, which diminishes illness.
Wow. I think our system is just really amazing.
We are amazing. I had this rabbi tell me we were double-sided and written in code like the Talmud, and absolutely 100%, that is the truth. We are double-sided and written in code, and each one of us is different. So you said something about strains. So I want to just touch on that a little bit. So strains matter when we're smoking, and that's pretty much it. Okay. Because as soon as that is compounded, so here's the difference. Here's a huge difference between cannabis and mushrooms. All right. So if I take 7 or 8 different strains of cannabis and I, process them all together and I pull them to a FECO concentrate, I'm not going to have the properties of any of those strains in my medicine. I'm going to have the cannabinoid profile that is going to be really super awesome because each one of those strains brought something different. But once it becomes a concentrate, it is just a cannabinoid profile. It is no longer what it was. So strains matter in the way that you're looking for cannabinoid profiles, like Blue Dream brings this and Jack Carrera brings that. But once it is made into a concentrate, whether it's BHO, CO2, or alcohol extracts, it is just a cannabinoid profile and it does not matter. And then there is no fucking sativa or indica at this point, okay? It is just a cannabinoid profile. And what manipulates it to be an indica or a sativa on the market is the terpene profile. So we use terpenes to bring it up or bring it down, but it is still just a baseline cannabis profile. So the only way that you're going to get the real distinction of a strain is when you fire it up, man, because it's that first hit when you decarboxylate it in your mouth that you taste the terpene profile, that you get hit by the whole flavonoid and everything that cannabis is. And that is why I love to smoke weed, because that is the only place where you really get that. So mushrooms, though, because we make many mushroom products, they stay in their own freaking lane. So I make a mushroom bar that has 5 different funguses in it. And I pick those funguses so the person who's eating it is going to have like a kind of like a journey like that, you know, because they don't become a mushroom profile. It doesn't become a psilocybin profile. If like this mushroom is visual and this one is emotional, you're going to be visual and emotional. Like they're going to, so we bring them together so people aren't watching the whole world melt. They're able to open their heart. And then we use the really strong mushrooms that are very high in psilocin, very mildly, because those are the ones that unlock the world and open the geometric, net that we're all covered in. Like if you really want to have an experience to see how interconnected to the entire universe you actually are, you have to crack that veil, and you're not going to get there with less than 3 grams, and then you have to be willing to sit through the uncomfortability of what that mushroom is bringing up in order to find that place inside of yourself. And this is where people get scared because they have never felt the hugeness of the love of the universe. They have never been embraced by that wholehearted experience of you are valued, loved, and cared for. So as they enter into that, it's like, oh, why is the sky all netted? And why are there geometrical shapes all over my face? And why is everybody different colors? So if you've never had that experience and you want to, I highly recommend that you do it with another person. And that you just sit through, that you go into it understanding that there's going to be a point maybe where it might be a little uncomfortable, but just breathe your way through that because you are being birthed. And the only way to bring a life onto the earth is through breath.
Blessed be. And I'm all, wow, like heartstring, feel it, feel it. Cause it's a real healing in that process for all of us. I mean, the mushroom therapy in general, you see it everywhere. It's coming up, but it does build these new neural pathways. And I think addressing that healing is so valuable.
And it allows people to see how loved they actually are.
Oh my goodness. What is that? To accept it, even to feel that embrace, so I think that's an important, and it's what we lack, that real ultimate connection that's within ourselves, ultimately. And that's what, the grounding of that plant medicine, anything that's rooted within our earth, like that's an honor that we get to participate. What advice, or how would you, to those that are skeptics or critics who may have questions or efficiency of the efficacy or the safety of the plant medicine and spiritual practices and healing, is there any advice or any way you might address that skepticism?
Well, I mean, these medicines have been around for always and since always. So my first question to you is, what are you so afraid of? Let's just start there. Why? And a lot of times, people will say, well, I just don't need that. Okay, you don't need it. Like I never push past anybody. We are all at where we're at. And I think that if you're teetering like, oh, I'm afraid, then reach out to somebody that you trust who's done it. And if you don't know anybody, then that's a little scary because there are a lot of bad people on the internet who want to tell you a bunch of BS. And the other thing is that know your source. You really have to know your source. This is not like Instagram is the ultimate place to get just misled, because these dudes show up in every single feed dropping their stuff. Do not buy from those people who are encouraging you to buy their stuff online, especially in a Facebook or an Instagram or a TikTok feed. Reputable people who actually make medicine, share information and knowledge, and there's a pathway to find them for that. So, do your due diligence. And, if you're skeptical, that just definitely is just about your fear. So what are you afraid of?
And that's a good question for today. All of us, if there's one thing we could face, just sit with it. What are we afraid of? That's a really important question that we could all face all the time. And even focusing on that breathing, because when we do get uncomfortable, our breathing becomes uncomfortable. And it's a good sign to tune in and tap into your breath and your wellness and face that. So I really appreciate
and reset your parasympathetic nerve. So just another neurological fact, every emotion only lasts 90 seconds in your body. Okay.
Oh, wow.
And if you allow that 90 seconds to pass and you just sit with what you're feeling, you will not be locked into it for days and weeks. So, really simple way to reset your parasympathetic nerve is to just hug yourself, clasp your hands behind your back, cross your legs and your arms. These are simple things that you can do and not look weird on the subway,
Right. Take that 30 seconds,
So,
the
but
90
first you have to
seconds,
get
right?
conscious of the fact that you are having a feeling. All right. And then feelings are not facts. You're just having a feeling.
Yes.
So, for everybody, like all the youngsters in the world, because here I am old now, I think the thing that I wish that I had been told the most is just to allow yourself to have your feelings, because they're going to pass, they're going to pass. And do not build your house on your pain.
Yeah, and this too shall pass. Robin, for somebody who might be tuning in right now for their first time and maybe they don't have anywhere or a place, is there a location where they might find information about you, or might they? They
can find me at swanapothecary.com. They can Google my name, robinswan.com, Facebook. I'm YouTube. I'm all over the place. I'm definitely a very social creature. So I'm not hard to come by.
That's wonderful. Is there any advice that you would give to our listeners that you would like to share before
I think in departing, I would just like to encourage everyone to just trust yourself and know that there are at least 3 people on this planet who love you more than you could possibly imagine. And the greatest gift that you give to anybody is you. So value yourself in that way, as the diamond and the shining light that you actually are.
Thank you so much. So I'm absolutely in awe of our conversation, our journey today that you have shared with us. Robin, your resilience and your bravery and determination are absolutely inspiring. Through your experiences, I thank you again for shedding light on the transformative power of not just medical cannabis, but our mushroom and our psilocybin healing, as its impact it can have on our physical, our mental, and emotional well-being. And your advocacy and willingness to share your story with us today absolutely touches our hearts and hopefully to the minds of our listeners as well. So I really want to express my deep gratitude, Robin, for you joining us today on Compassion in Cannabis and for opening up on your journey. And your words have brought us closer to definitely understanding the importance of compassion, access, and education when it comes to holistic ways to heal. So thank you. And is there any final thoughts or any messages of hope?
No, I just appreciate you so much. And I'm so proud of you. I'm just so proud of you.
Thank you. Your unwavering courage for being an incredible advocate for compassionate care. It really is a beacon of hope for us, and being able to seek alternative ways to healing. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this transformative episode of Compassion in Cannabis. And we hope that Robin Swan, his story has touched your hearts, inspired you to explore the potential of medicinal cannabis and So let us continue to cultivate empathy, understanding, and support to those in need as we journey together towards a more compassionate and inclusive world. And until next time, my friends, stay curious, stay compassionate, keep embracing the power of healing. And this concludes today's episode. And I thank you for joining us today. And we look forward to another journey together.